I went towards the light. I just left that scene and off I went. And the actual experience was short because I moved to another dimension. A being was there in front of me. I felt like it was a male. And because of my background, it had the energy of Jesus to me. And he spoke to me. I didn't see his face. And he addressed me by name. And he said, Andrea. And I was so feeling so small. How is it you know my name?
Welcome, Andrea. Thank you so much for joining us today on Life, Death, and Beyond podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
You're welcome. So I understand you had a near-death experience and a whole journey, which was amazing. Would you like to take us through the near-death experience?
Absolutely, I would love to. So this goes back to December of 1991. I was 31 years old, and I was really blessed and gifted to have a vision of the whole accident that happened later that day. I was just waking up in the morning. It was the day of my grandmother's funeral, and just as I was waking up, I had a vision, different from a dream. A vision you remember long after it's happened. And I didn't write it down, but I saw it so clearly. I saw a car, I saw a snowstorm. I saw my husband and I walk down the street. We got hit by a car. I heard him scream. And then I started to wonder, well, how does a person on a sidewalk get hit by a car? My rational mind came in. I woke up and I went on with my day. And it was a big day. It was the day of a funeral of someone I loved. And that night at 10 p.m., in the most amazing divine timing, we were coming out of a house. There were cars parked everywhere, just one little space open, and this car came down the road. I had seen the color and the make. It came down the road, jumped in just where there was an opening, and hit us from behind. So I never saw the car coming. But the moment we were hit, I heard my husband scream. And he said those exact words that I had heard that morning at 7 a.m. So I knew that I was being prepared. I knew that this was supposed to happen. And I just decided to go with it and not tense up. In that split second, I realized if I get all tense and then I hit the pavement, I could get hurt worse than if I just hit the pavement and am relaxed. I don't even know why I remember that, but I did. So it was a big commotion because at the time I had 3 little kids, and husband and wife both hit. The house was full of people. There was a big snowstorm. Everybody piled into the street. There were ambulances and chaos, and I went one way over the car. My husband went the other. I was 35 feet down the road. And that's when I came out of my body. And then I started seeing all this chaos around, all these people coming out and all these women. Nobody was wearing a coat. That really bothered me because it was December and there was a big snowstorm. And I was like, why aren't you all wearing coats? And then I looked down and I saw my red coat. I had this fabulous red coat. It was like all the way down to my ankles. And I looked down on the road. I was about 9 feet up, and there was this thing on the road, and there was this red coat. I said, wait a minute, I know that coat. And the cool thing was I realized at that moment that I was not that body. I had all my thoughts, I had all my memories, I had all my emotions. Everything was with me except the physical body. And then I saw the craziness going on, and I tried to talk to them, couldn't reach anybody, nobody could hear me. So then came the light. And I do a lot of sound healing now to help people heal. And sometimes that light, that same feeling of that most unimaginable infinite love and light comes into our sound sessions. And I feel so blessed when that happens because I know that feeling. And it's like, gee, we can have that without having a near-death experience. How cool is that? Yeah. So I went towards the light. I just left that scene and off I went. And the actual experience was kind of short because I moved to another dimension. A being was there in front of me. I felt like it was a male. And because of my background, it had the energy of Jesus to me. And he spoke to me. I didn't see his face. And he addressed me by name. And he said, Andrea. And I was like, I was feeling so small. How is it you know my name? And it's interesting because now when I talk to spirit, which I do a lot, they often address me as the entity who goes by the name of Andrea. And I realize, yeah, Andrea is just a label. But back then, he addressed me by name. And he said, Andrea, do you want to stay or do you want to go? And I, as I told you, had 3 little kids. And I said, I have to go back. And then he asked me again. And I said, even if every bone is broken, I must go back. And so then I was instantly thrown into this huge vortex of light. And it was really spinning. It was like being in a tornado, actually. And then I felt I actually had some kind of hands and feet. I was in an astral body because I was using my hands and using my feet really, like I was really focused on it. I put all my effort, all my energy, all my strength into staying in this vortex because I sort of knew if I don't hold on tight, I'm going to get thrown out and I don't know where I'm going to end up. So I held on and I slammed back into my body. When I think about it, it was actually as much of a hit almost as being hit by the car. So I slammed back into my body and I woke up and I was crying. And you know what? I didn't break one bone. I had a run in my pantyhose. The car was destroyed. The windshield was broken. I mean, it was really a mess. And I did not break one bone, but I was really messed up for a good year. And I had a 1-year-old that I couldn't hold in my arms. So I used to put him in one of those little bundle buggy things, like a knapsack that you carry on the front. Well, he's 36 now. And because for that first year after the accident, I couldn't hold him, but I always had him on me. He's so affectionate. It's crazy. Even at 36, he loves to hug. He loves to be close. And I trace it back to that. I think that had something to do with it. But the really cool part was everything that started happening after. Because that day was the day of my grandmother's funeral. And unbeknownst to me at the time, I didn't know any of this. I didn't even know this kind of thing existed. We had made an agreement that there were things she had not finished in this life. And so she actually wanted to stick around. And she stayed with me. It happened very soon after the accident. I started to feel that I wasn't really just myself, that my grandmother was with me. And she started to talk to me. And the first thing she said is, go get my books, read my books. And so I knew about these books and I knew where they were and I went to read them. They were called The Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. And I tried to read these books and I didn't understand a thing. I just didn't understand. I said, Grandma, I'm not ready to read these books. So she said, okay, first thing we're going to do then is you're going to learn patience. And then you're going to learn forgiveness. And then you're going to learn acceptance and non-judgment. And I didn't realize at the time that what she was doing was teaching me the virtues. It's amazing how sometimes it can take so long to unpack a near-death experience. Just this year, I was away. I was lying under a tree at the beach, and I was talking to Spirit, and they said to me, Andrea, you're going to write a book, another book, because I've already written 2 books. I said, oh, okay, what's it going to be called? And they said, it's going to be called Collaborate. Partner with your spirit team and grow your business. And then there was like a line through the word business, and then there was the word life, like written as a cursive. So I said, well, how am I going to get people to connect with their spirit team? And then they brought me back to that first moment when my grandmother said to me, you are going to learn patience. And they said, well, what did your grandmother do? I said, oh yeah, she was teaching me the virtues. And so I went online and I started Googling virtues. Do you know there are so many lists of virtues? You can have virtues according to Buddha, virtues according to AA. You can have virtues according to the Bible, and it goes on and on and on. But the bottom line, and this was all told to me while I was lying under this tree, was that the virtues, really incorporating the virtues, are the way to self-purification. I never thought of it before. I never realized that when my grandmother started teaching me all these things, that's what I was doing. I was raising my vibration by paying attention to the virtues. And what I realized is that you learn the virtues through action. You know, it's not really through like reading a book or looking at a list and saying, okay, today I'd like to learn about, I don't know, acceptance. You learn acceptance by having a lot of crap happen in your life that is really hard to accept. Really, really hard. And so you make a little progress, and then something else happens that's even harder to accept. And you move through that. And then another one and another one. And then when you really get it, that lesson is gone. You just have it. Like there's some virtues I don't even need to learn anymore. I know, like generosity and kindness and honesty and integrity. Like that's me. It's so in me in every cell that they're just with me. But patience and forgiveness, in January of 1992, she said, we are going to learn patience. And I'm still working on patience. So there was something I was told while I was under that tree that I wanted to share with everybody. And that is, well, there's so many things I was told, but one of them is document what you get. And document it not necessarily by typing it on your electronic device, but document by putting it in a book. Use a paper and use a pen. Use a paper and a pen, and always have 2 pens in case one of them runs out, okay? And like I have pages and pages of stuff, and it's written, there's something about writing cursive versus printing. Cursive writing puts you in that flow. And there's so many things that you get that you will forget if you don't write it down. I'm just amazed. Like I read this stuff all the time, and I cannot believe even that I wrote any of these things. And it just goes on and on and on. Yeah. So my grandmother starts talking to me about 2 weeks after the near-death experience. And actually, one of the first things I did as they were loading us into the ambulances, and we had the stuff on us and everything, my husband was loaded into the same ambulance too, and I kind of looked over and I said, this marriage is over. I am not living without love. Of course, there's a whole history there, which I'm not going to get into, but I knew that my life had a purpose, and all of our lives, of course, do. And we don't need to have a near-death experience and get the crap knocked out of us to know that. We don't. But in my case, I was stubborn. It was till death do us part. And one thing that was really cool? I wrote a book with my daughter after she passed, and we were talking about the near-death experience. And you know what she said to me? I didn't even think of this before. She said, Mom, it wasn't a near-death experience. It was a death experience. You died. And in that instant, all that guilt about ending my marriage and having 3 little kids and having taken a vow, it was gone. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I am entitled to live a good life. And this is like a 2.0 for me, completely, a totally different life. So my grandmother started talking to me, and I started to learn the virtues. And then all these psychic gifts just started happening. And I didn't know where it was all coming from. I didn't understand it. I had trouble sometimes modulating it too. And then I met this amazing woman. Spirit never leaves you alone. They know you, they guide you. Your guardian angel is always with you. You are never alone to navigate this. And you and I know this. I mean, we know that we are so well surrounded and well accompanied. So I needed a teacher. I needed somebody I could learn from. And I met a woman who did Reiki. And the day I went for a Reiki session, guess what? The Reiki room was not available. So instead, we went and had a 3-hour coffee. And that 3 hours basically changed my life. And she said, why don't you come and join my meditation group? And I said, I'd love to. And we sat for about every 2 weeks. We would meet every 2 weeks. And just that, when you're a single mom with 3 little kids, to meet every second Friday night, just those kinds of things, that was a challenge for me just to make the time for it. But I did, because I knew it mattered. It mattered to me. It resonated with me. So her name is Carole. And after about 8 years, we sat in silence. She brought in a crystal bowl. And she hit the bowl. And I heard that vibration. And she said, follow the sound. And I followed the sound. And my mind just stopped. It was such an incredible feeling to just be able to quiet the mind. And in doing that, I was able to connect more and more with spirit. So combine the raising of your vibration with the stillness of meditation and that third element of having a paper and a pen, and you're on your way. You're on your way to partnering with your spirit team. So, my life continued. My grandmother kept talking to me, and it was really nice. It was like having her in the room. And she would say crazy stuff to me, so I totally knew it was her. Like, I'd be out in my kayak, and she would say, Andrea, this is your Valhalla. I'm like, what? I never heard that word before. Your Valhalla? I had to look it up. And it means a place for fallen warriors, a place of repose, a place of renewal and rest for fallen warriors. And I was like, you're right, Grandma. That's exactly what this place is for me. Healing from that accident, now a single mom, and all the stress that comes with trying to raise 3 kids. And then there was, the child support was cut off, so I was like all by myself. I mean, there was one thing after another. And so one day, she comes to me and she says, go get that photograph. I'm like, what are you talking about? She says, and she spoke to me clear as day, like I could hear her, like I could hear you. And she said, well, it's at the mom's, because I was there watering the plants at my parents'. She said, go in the library. It's on the bottom shelf. You know, they see everything. There is nothing hidden from spirit. I wish everybody would know that. I wish everyone would know that everything we think, say, and do is known. Everything. So she said, go get that picture. Go make a logo. We're going into business. I'm like, what? And she knew before I knew that I was going to have no more child support and that I would need to find a way to support myself and support my 3 kids. So I get the picture. Sure enough, there it is. I say, well, what are we going to do, Grandma? And she says, well, we're going to make granola. I'm like, what? Because she had made it. My mother had made it. I had always made it for my kids. I'm like, we're going to make granola. I'm going to be able to support my kids by making oats, like cooking oats. You're kidding. Like, how is that going to work? And I said, what are we going to call the company? She says, well, we could call it Andrea's Homemade Granola or Emily's this, that. She says, no, no, no. My grandmother was very strong, and she still is. She said, no, it's going to be called Grandma Emily's Granola. And so that's what I did. I started at home. I bought a little bit of oats. I developed a recipe, and I partnered. And that's why all these years later now, because I sold my company 11 years ago, and at the time when I sold it, I was selling across the country. I had turned it into a big business. This is like fast forward many years. And I was able to retire. But at the beginning, I never told anybody that I was partnering with my grandmother. I mean, I used to win awards because people would say, well, how does a single mom with 3 kids and no money bootstrap a business from your home kitchen and eventually sell all across the country in a fantastic HACCP certified location? Well, the key is you have to have trust that the nudges that you get and the risks that you take are calculated risks. Because I had to take risks. I mean, it didn't just appear in front of me. I had to show up every day. There were a lot of days where all my kids had to eat was granola, like I was working hard. There were a lot of days when even when I would give myself the luxury of sleeping for a few hours, during my sleep, I would work out so many problems that I had at the factory because I didn't know anything about a food business or how to have equipment or how to make granola or how to, write policies and procedures. I mean, there's countless things I had to learn. But my grandmother said, Andrea, all you gotta know is the next step. And she was right. Years later, I was teaching entrepreneurship at university. And I was a judge in a business plan competition. And people would come with these 40-page business plans. They were all pretty much fabrications of just nothing. And I'd say, just give me 5 pages. Tell me who all the players are. So what are the qualities of the people that are partnering to create this business? And what's your vision? Why are you doing this? And the rest is just going to present itself every day. If you know why. See, for me, the why was so simple. It was like, I want to feed my kids and I want to create some kind of a home for us. So I always stuck with that why. And the how it was going to happen, well, that just showed up every day, every day. Some new problem would show up, some new challenge would show up. But I honestly could not have done it without my spirit team. So I'm sitting under a tree. This is like a month ago. And they say, you're going to write about that now and help people realize that they can consciously partner with your spirit team and create what you want to create. So that's a little bit of my story. Since who have kids in spirit, we love to talk about our kids. We love to talk about our kids. It's not like, oh gosh, maybe we shouldn't mention their name because it's too awful and too sad. No, we want to talk about them. We love them so much and we keep them close and alive and current and present by talking about them. So this is another message I would love people to know, is ask us about our kids and say them by name. And if sometimes, my child comes into your thoughts, let me know, oh, I was cooking this morning and Chloe came into my mind. We love to hear that. We just love it. So I'm running this business. I'm working like a dog. Yes, Friday afternoons, my grandmother and I close the business early. I send my staff home. I ended up with a staff of 16. I send them home. I pay them for the full day. And my grandmother and I basically walk around the plant, and she tells me all the different things that I need to fix and need to do, and all the stuff I screwed up too. She tells me, you messed this up. You shouldn't have gone to see that chef at lunchtime. You will never get an order from him now because you never go see a chef when he's busy, on and on. I learned so much. And I run this business and I grow this business. And in 2015, I say to my guides, to my spirit team, I am exhausted. I need to sell this business. And it's hard to sell a small business because a small business carries the current, the energy, the pulse of the person who started it. And every one of those employees, they're like family. So it's hard to sell a small business. It's hard to bring a stranger in. But I asked. That's the key. Just ask. So I asked Spirit, I said, I need a buyer. Find me somebody. And as much as I used to be so enthusiastic going in at 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning, now I was dragging myself in. I knew it was time to go. And sure enough, buyer showed up. But again, it wasn't simple. He didn't know me. He didn't trust me. So I said, and I knew, it's like selling a house. The first offer, that's always the best one. Go for the first offer. And this buyer, I knew he was the one. And I said, okay, I asked my team. I said, what do I do? How do I get this man to trust me? And they said, get out of Dodge. I said, oh, good idea. So I said to him, look, I'm going away. You can come in for the whole week. You can talk to all my staff. You can open every drawer. You can look at every file. You can't talk to anybody on the phone. I don't want you talking to suppliers or customers, but you can see all my machinery. It was all custom machinery that I had developed. Not all of it. Some of it was standard machinery, but I had custom machinery in there too. But I said, you can come in for a whole week and I'll be back next week. And that was it. He spent a week in there and then he realized what he was getting himself into and he bought my business. And I was so relieved. I put a knapsack on my back and I went to Italy. What else do? I just wanted to travel. I just wanted to be free. And I get a call. I get a call from my son 1 month after I sell my business. 1 month I am in Italy. And he says to me, Mom, you have to come home. Chloe is sick. Chloe's my daughter. And it was Daniel, my 1-year-old, who is now, in his 20s, who says, you got to come home. Chloe's sick. And so I did. And even that was such a gift, because had I been working like I had been with the schedule I had, I never would have had time for Chloe. And I would have been so torn. But now I was there. And one day I was meditating and I just knew that this role of taking care of her in the last year of her life, she had cancer, we had treatments, and surgeries, and all kinds of stuff. But I knew that that role was my role to fulfill, and that I was going to be there for her till her last breath. I also had a vision one day. This is all the cool, crazy stuff that happened after the near-death experience. All these different levels of experience were coming to me. But I also think, Laura, I helped them because I never was somebody who was into any kind of social media or carried my phone with me or all of that stuff. I really always appreciated taking time to be still. I did. And taking time to be quiet. And that's how I was able to hear spirit. That's really how. So one day I had a vision. And it's funny because I always called Chloe my sister. I always called her my sister instead of my daughter. And that's a real clue for people. If you have that kind of stumble with somebody, you realize that in a past life, she was my sister. And I was her older sister, and she was my younger sister. And she was sick. And so I have this vision where I'm only like 17 when she's really sick. And I can't handle it. I just can't. And I know that it's my role to take care of her, but I can't do it. So I abandon her. I was like, oh my God, I did that? Yeah. So I knew in this life, I was going to be there for her no matter what, through thick and thin. So in February of 2016, Chloe passes away. And I had been solid with her for almost a year, every day. And about 2 weeks after she passes, I'm writing her a letter. I say, Chloe, again, paper and pen, paper and pen. I can't emphasize it enough. I say, Chloe, I rented this little house because I didn't want to stay in the place where I had taken care of her. I kind of figured I need a break. I want to go somewhere. One of the virtues that really resonates with me is beauty. And I needed to be somewhere beautiful. And I rented this little house on the water, just a little 400 square foot thing. And I'm writing her a letter. I have a little wood stove that's crackling away. And I say, Chloe, you would love this place. I mean, there's so much that goes into caring for a child at the end of their life. So, I mean, we could do a whole podcast just on that, just on the gift of being there for the ones you love, but also recognizing that, this is their journey and we are there to assist. I mean, there's so many things I could tell you, about that journey. It's a very blessed journey. It's a very hard journey. I mean, I don't think there is a tougher one. I really don't. But boy, does it prepare you. And for me personally, after the near-death experience, I knew there was no death. So going through this journey with Chloe, I knew that when I stood there that night and I looked at her inanimate body on that bed, it wasn't her. And in the instant when I realized that completely, totally, 100%, I'm like, that is not Chloe. She was right beside me and she said in my ear, Mom, thank you so much for being calm. You helped me let go. There's so many things I learned in that journey. That would be for another time. But I want to tell you about the book we wrote, because about 2 weeks after she passed, and I'm writing this letter and I'm telling her how much she would love this place that I'm in. It's so simple and it's so beautiful and it's so tiny and it's right on the water. And I get up to burn my letter. And she says, Mom, I hear her loud and clear. She says, you're so easy to find. It's a joke. And it was exactly her voice. I said, what do you mean, Chloe? She said, your light, Mom. Your light shines. And then she told me something that honestly has changed me. All of it changes you, But she said, you know, Mom, when you pray, we see your light. I'm like, wow, really? She's like, yeah, really. Prayers are light. And up until then, when I had meditated, I had never prayed while I had meditated. But now when I meditate, I pray. And it's funny, eh? It's something like you might be embarrassed or shy to share, but I'm not shy anymore to say it. And I tell people when they're like, how do I meditate? How do I stop my mind? I say, pray. Even if you say one line, God is my fortress and my vault, or whatever has meaning to you, I am, whatever has meaning to you, go with it. And it sends light. So Miss Chloe starts talking to me. I call her Miss Chloe. She starts talking to me and she starts waking me up at about 4:30 in the morning. And when she was alive, she did this really annoying thing. She used to stick her chin in my shoulder. And you know, like when you grind bone on bone, it's like, ow, stop. Well, that's how she would wake me up. I would physically feel that grinding in my shoulder. And she's like, Ma, open your computer. And this is probably the coolest thing that ever happened, is that she would start talking to me and I would just close. She said, close your eyes. I would close my eyes and I would start typing her words, and I never made a spelling mistake. I mean, and when I would type back to her, ask her a question, whatever, there was loads of mistakes. Anyway, she said to me, we're going to write a book. We're going to write a book together and you're going to use it to help other people. And I'm like, I don't want to write a book. I'm teaching in university. I'm not going to start trying to write a book with my child across the veil and people are going to question my sanity and wonder who I am. And no. Let's just keep talking. And then she got like upset with me. And she said, do you think I've gone through all this for you to cop out on me now? I said, I said, you know what? Let's just start. And we did. And we wrote a book. And it actually took 5 months from the beginning to the end of writing it. That was the easy part. Writing a book, honestly, I have so much respect for everybody who writes a book. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of editing. That's all the slog, that comes after the fun part of writing. But this is the book. And this is my lovely Chloe. And it's called Conversations with Chloe. And to this day, she gives me a hard time when she sees the cover. And she's like, you should have put my name on it too, because we co-wrote it. And I'm like, you're right, Chloe, we did. But I didn't put her name on the cover. Yeah. So I wrote the book. I self-published it. I created a PDF, and the PDF is free on my site. So lots of people want to buy the book because they want it signed or whatever, and they like to have a copy of the book. But if anybody wants to read it, it's there. And I wrote, after this book, I wrote a second book, different. And this was gathering with other moms who had kids in spirit. And their stories were so compelling too. And they were getting so many signs from their kids. I never knew anything about signs. I didn't know anything about anything. In fact, for a lot of us, it's like any big journey is such a teacher. When I went through the cancer journey, and Chloe went through the cancer journey, but I learned so much in that journey. And I'm learning so much in this one too. And I learned about signs. And one really cool thing, I had the wherewithal before she passed to say, Chloe, we need a phrase. I recommend everybody have a phrase. So with your loved one, while they're still alive, because it's got to be something just relevant to the two of you. Can't be something like, good morning. It's got to be something that's kind of obscure and that just the two of you are really remembering and aware of, so that when they're communicating with you from the other side, they can use that phrase in all crazy ways to let you know they're there. So Chloe was sick. I used to take her out of the hospital, and sometimes it was like a real production because she was weak, and this and that, and the wheelchair, and get her in the car. And we used to go to the drive-through, and often she couldn't eat, but one thing she loved were iced cappuccinos. So I used to buy her iced cappuccino. So that was a natural. We knew right away. I said, Chloe, our phrase is going to be iced cappuccino. We don't talk about death. In Chloe and my case, we never really talked about death. She didn't think actually she was going to die. She would look around her little hospital room. She had this little tiny private room, and she'd say, Mom, when I get out of here, I think I could have an apartment this size. I could live in something this size. And I would say, well, yeah, a little small, but sure, why not? We'll see. But we did have our phrase, and it was iced cappuccino. And she's laughing because I've said this story so many times, but you cannot make this stuff up. And it helps people when they experience that phrase for themselves with their loved one across the veil. They let go of doubt. And when you let go of doubt, oh man, the gifts just are there, and it makes it so much easier for them to communicate with us. So iced cappuccino bottles start showing up all over the place. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. And one day I'm taking my son, I have another son, shopping. And we get to the cash, and he's got all these bottles of iced cappuccino in his crate, in his cart. And I'm like, Matthew, what are you doing with these? And he says, I don't know, Mom. I don't even drink this stuff. And there they are. But I think probably and it happened many times in many different ways. I'd be somewhere like, totally obscure, away from everything, and there'd be a bottle of iced cappuccino. But my son, Matthew, has had many visits to the psych ward. Unfortunately, that's his journey. It's a tough one. And we live that every day. But again, I recognize that this is his path, and his soul is learning what it came here to learn. And my job is to love him. And it's easy to love the child who, is the doctor and the lawyer and the accountant. And it's tough to love the one that's so difficult to love. But that's part of my journey, is just to love him. So I'm visiting Matthew. We're in the psych ward. And I'm having a hard day. And I say to Chloe, telepathically in my head, I don't even say it out loud, I just say it. Chloe, please give me a sign. I need to know that you're here. And within 5 seconds, one of the other people in the psych ward starts screaming at the top of their lungs, get me an iced cappuccino. Get me an iced cappuccino. On and on and on. And I'm like, oh my God. I say, okay, Chloe, stop. And instantly he stops. And I realized that the communication between us and across the veil is so telepathic, and it's so instant. That's another thing I want people to realize. So I write the second book, and the second book is called Magical Thinking Not, because psychologists have this term. It's called magical thinking. And that refers to when people think that they are communicating with their loved ones across the veil. And so they say that we're thinking magically. But it's not magical thinking. And I go to a conference, and it's a most amazing thing. All these women and these men and some children are at this conference. And it's a conference of an organization for parents who have kids in spirit. And the organization is called Helping Parents Heal. And I find out about this organization. I meet with a local chapter. I record their stories, which are so cool. Amazing story. And heartbreaking too. Tough. Yeah, life is a master class. We really are in this for mastery. It's tough. And I write the second book. And I go to the conference. And by this time, I am doing sound healing online for this group of people on Zoom. I started in March 2020. As soon as COVID started, I was online on Zoom doing sound. So I'm at this conference and I'm in this room with about 120 chairs, but there's like a lot of people at this conference. There's over 1,000 people at this conference. And I'm in the room with the PowerPoint that runs all day long with the pictures of our kids in spirit. There's like 1,000 pictures up on that thing. And it's not easy to look at, but it's also so beautiful because there's kids, walking their dogs and riding their horses and squishing their cats and loving their siblings and fishing and everything, living. All these kids just living. And all their equipment conks out. So I say, okay, put your PowerPoint on my computer. I will run this thing for the next 4 days because I'm in this room doing sound. I have all bowls in the room. Parents come in and it's really a lovely exchange in this room. And I get to do sound live where I had only been online with these people for years. So it was really nice. So no sooner do they connect my computer to that PowerPoint that everything freezes. Nothing works. And I say, oh no. And I look up at the screen and guess whose picture is on the screen? Out of 1,000 kids, guess whose picture is on the screen? And the organizer's son-in-law looks at me, Michael, and he says, Andrea, isn't that Chloe? And I'm like, oh my God, Chloe, how did you do that? That's what I ask her. And you know what she says to me? She says, Mom, you make it so easy. You don't doubt. And I knew right then and there that my mission in life was to help people release doubt, because that's the key. That's the gift. And then she said, I need you to come with me. And she pretty much pulled me by the top of my top. And it was early in the morning. There was the main big room where everybody would gather for the main speakers. And she said, come with me. And so she takes me down the hall into that main room. And the room is pretty much empty. There's nobody in there yet. It's early. But there's a family in there. And there's a young boy. And there were very few kids at this conference. And she says, you tell him what just happened. So I kind of sit up on the chair in front of them, in front of the family. I say, and I just start. I say, hi, my name is Andrea, and I'm in the sound healing room, and my daughter Chloe just showed up on the thing, and then she told me this, and she said that, and she made it possible because she said, I made it possible. And how did I make it possible? Because I released all doubt. And I looked at the little kids, and I just said, that's the message that Chloe has for you. And then I kind of felt pretty embarrassed. I didn't know these people. I'm like, sorry, have a nice day. And I leave. Well, 4 o'clock that afternoon, that family comes into my room. And I go see them. And he says to me, I want you to know that you changed the whole experience for me. You changed everything. Because I decided in that moment to release doubt. And I had the most amazing day. And so that story, I mean, there's so many stories. of Chloe giving me signs and showing up in such a magnificent way. But the point is not just to go, wow, what a cool sign. The point is to use these moments to help other people so that they too can release doubt and lighten their hearts and know that there really is no death. But you can't know that unless you experience it. You can read it, you can, say all the affirmations you want. But when you experience it, then you know it. And you change your beliefs. Because our beliefs, they govern so much of the way we move through our day. So I have been talking nonstop for almost an hour. And of course, talking about Miss Chloe is one of my favorite subjects. And yes, there are a lot of things I could read to you from the book. There is one thing I do want to highlight. At one point I said, Chloe, I want to help other people do what we're doing right now. So what do give me some material. And she told me lots of cool things about what she's doing and what it's like and all this. It's really, really cool. And she said, okay, I'm going to give you the 12 steps to bridging. And it took me 3 days to take down the 12 steps to bridging. And remember that woman Carole that I told you about at the beginning that I meditated with way back in 1992? Well, I still meditate with her now. I still see her, I'll be with her Wednesday for sound meditation. And hold on. This doesn't happen to me often, but okay. She wants me to, all right, 12 steps to bridging. She wants me to read just the first one, okay? Okay, I'll read the first one. But what I wanted to tell you before was that I am like a super healthy eater, green juice, this, that, salad every day. When I took down the 12 steps to bridging, all I wanted to do for 3 days was eat junk, salt. And so I asked Carole, I said, what's going on? And she said, Andrea, too much proximity with spirit. You're too much out of your body, too much in a higher vibration, and you're having a hard time to moderate it. And I learned from that, we are here in a human body. That's why I try to go walk every day and jog, and we need to be in these bodies too. But I had a hard time. And I took it down, the 12 steps to bridging, and Miss Chloe wants me to read just number 1. Okay, so I'm just going to read the first one. It's in the book. It's also on my website. It's also free. You can download it. Even just the 12 steps, you can download it. And of course, when I took this down, I didn't believe this. I'm like, no way is this the first one. She said, okay. One thing she told me, and then I will stop talking. She said, you can do these steps in any order except for the first one. The first one has to be first. And this is what it is. All is as it should be. I'm like, no way. Fundamental to this initiative is the understanding that all is as it should be with the world. There will be much evidence to contradict that statement. Ignore it. This is the toughest step. It's called acceptance. All is as it should be. This applies to all things in life and death. Not only are there no mistakes in life, just lessons, but there are no errors in death. Every life is appropriate and of the correct length. This fundamental knowing may be the subject of study during multiple lifetimes, or it may be known instantly. It requires the full acceptance of death as a part of life. So that was it. Number 1 was the virtue of acceptance. And then she goes on. And some of them are more, like simple, like about breath work and about raising your vibration and different things. But she said number one has to be first. So, imagine you are talking to a parent whose child has passed, and you bring that concept of acceptance into it. It's tough. It's tough. And it can take a long time. It's been 10 years. I still miss her. And I talk to her. And she talks to me. But that's why this human life is so precious. And that's why these bodies are so precious. And the ones we love around us are so precious. Wow. Yep. So that that practice of gratitude for everything really helps move us into a nice state of acceptance. So there we go. I had to add that last bit about the 12 steps. You're welcome, Chloe.
Such a wonderful journey, and how it unfolded. There's a lot of takeaway from that, and definitely a lot of experiences. And being here, like you said, is definitely um, it's a process, And from my understanding, that in your death experience, and also I understand that we take our lessons and we come here, and it's a part of the doing, like the virtues. So not only are we just, we can sit there and read it, but it's not until we put it into action
Action. Yeah. Oh,
that we
yeah.
actually get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
learned that. That's why you get like a little thing happens, but then a bigger one and a bigger one and a bigger one to really learn that virtue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of it too is, I think, I call it like where the student it becomes the teacher, right? Because it's almost like, you have to integrate it, understand it, work through it, and then actually apply it. And so it's school. And a lot of people talk about being here as a school, and I can literally like see that intuitively, like
Yeah.
how that added is, on the other side. Now, I didn't experience, like some people have talked about how they are actually in a classroom on the other side. I haven't necessarily experienced that myself, but I do have visions of it, which is really interesting.
One thing Claude told me, I mean, we've had so many discussions about what's going on. She said to me once, if you have like an inkling to do something, like let's say you would like to, I don't know, learn calligraphy, let's say, you know, start now. Start while you're in a body, and then you can continue after. You can keep learning anything that really speaks to your heart. But it does help to start doing it when you're here in a body, because the experience, the physical experience, the three-dimensional experience is different from the way they experience life. And starting and learning a certain skill in 3 dimensions, like let's say you want to be a drummer, as much as it, because I just saw like a set of drums, like as much as it might seem crazy, try it out. And then if you really do like it, when you do eventually leave your body, you can keep learning drumming. How
Yeah.
cool is that?
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I like your journey, how it unfolds, because it kind of shows people, which I think is important too, because a lot of people get caught up in, I'm only here to do this, and this is just my journey, and this is the end of my journey, right? But there's so much that comes in after that. So, like, you went from, uh, a business person to teaching. It's an unfolding. Our journey is an unfolding. Not we don't just come in and be a teacher like forever, right? There's a lot of things when we can move out of just being a teacher and learning about different things, like say maybe take on art, take on the drums or whatever it
Yeah.
is. We can learn so much by doing that and not just keeping our focus. in that one
Yeah.
thing, because I think it's in an unfolding, right? Because
Yeah. And having the
we,
curiosity to
mm-hmm,
keep, yeah, doing new
yeah,
things.
yeah. The other thing, when you were talking about your experience, I wanted to kind of, because I've had this experience too, and that was like when we were going through COVID and we had the riots going on, is you can have the download or information come in or the vision, right, as we're sleeping.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's like a very different energy between a dream and your vision while you're sleeping. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how did that feel to you, or what made you realize that it was more of a vision than a dream?
So you are referring to the vision of the accident that
Correct.
I had. Well, that to me, it was, I had color, I had sound, I had sight, I had a clarity, and it didn't disappear. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I want to hold on to this dream, so I'm going to halfway open my eyes and write it down right away. I didn't need to write anything down. I had, a few years ago, I had another vision. I mean, I've had lots of them, and we're all able to have visions. And I was really missing Chloe physically. Like I was missing a hug. And I was just kind of like obsessed with having that physical hurt. And I was like, Chloe, I miss you. So very soon after, I have this vision one night and I see a room and it's dark and it's like up at an angle. And I see her standing in the corner of the room and she's giving me a huge smile. And I see a guide, her guide, is also in the room as if they are helping her because what we are going to do is pretty cool. And so they're helping. I don't know how they're helping, but I know that they're there to help her. And so she looks at me and she speaks to me and she says, Mom, yeah, it's me. Come here. I'm like, what? She said, yeah, you wanted a hug. I said, really? She says, yeah. So I approach and we hug and I physically felt her and hugged her. And it was incredible. And then she starts laughing and she sort of turns into light and she's laughing, laughing, laughing. And then she lets go and does this magnificent swan dive. She was a swimmer. Does this beautiful swan dive. Bye, Mom. And off she goes. And it was like, that wasn't a dream. That was really a gift. And I remember every detail of it. So,
Beautiful.
yeah. But also in our dreams, when I was running my business, I used to ask Spirit at night to help me solve problems. Like I had machinery. I didn't know anything about pneumatics or any of these things that it takes. And they would help me in my sleep. I would solve lots of problems. So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's important to ask for guidance. And a lot of times
Yes,
they do. You'll wake up in the morning and you'll have like inspiration. You'll just know what to do. It's like they bring it to you in your mind. Uh, it for whatever reason, like you said, I don't know what they're really doing, but it helps you to like work things out in your mind, and you just kind of wake up with that knowing, the
that's right.
direction.
But you know what
Hmm.
they're doing, Laura? They're helping us. They're helping us grow and they're teaching us. What's so cool to me is that nobody knows us like Spirit knows us. They know everything and they always want our well being and our highest and best good.
Hmm.
And if you can just tune in and follow those nudges, you are always being guided. Yeah. And they won't just speak to you out loud. It only happened to me once, actually, that my guardian angel spoke to me because my life was in danger. And I was at the sea. And it was the most beautiful, calm day. I was in Mexico. It was gorgeous. And there was a reef out there that I wanted to swim to. And I put my toes in the water. And I hear in my head, don't go in the water. Danger. And I say, impossible. How can there be danger? Look at this day. So I go in the water, and as I'm swimming out to the reef, I look down, and there's a shark, a huge shark, right below me with all those teeth grinning. And then I realized, oh, that's why I was told don't go in. So I slowly turn around and I started saying this prayer that my grandmother had taught me, which is, if you are with him and in his constant care, no harm will ever touch you. God's love is always there. And I just started saying that prayer, and I just made a beeline for the shore. And a few days later, somebody was bitten. And I told the guy at the snorkeling shack about it, but they did not advertise it. They didn't want to create fear, I guess, in the hearts of others.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
the nudges are usually not that loud. They're small. They're like this. How am I supposed to hear that? You know, it's pretty hard when you're busy listening to all the noise and the chaos around you.
Mm-hmm.
But you can train yourself. You show up every day and still your life, and just listen with your pen and your paper, and just amazing what happens.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, intuition is very silent sometimes, and we have to pay attention. We have to quiet the mind to do that. And meditation is a great way to do that. I found throughout my journey, it was actually after my near-death experience, the first thing that came in was to learn how to meditate and quiet the mind. And then I was able to follow my intuition from there. So it's very helpful, to incorporate that if people are not doing that. Um, Now with I think another important part is, there is no death that you brought to the conversation. A lot of us who've had near-death experiences know that, or who do out-of-body experiences. How do you think that helps somebody who are going through, having the grief of losing a child, or anybody actually? Do you think that helps a lot, or like with the grieving part, or how does that play out, do you think?
You know, my experience is that everyone has their own journey. Some people will come to it themselves by having their heart basically broken, cracked open. Maybe it could take a day or a year or a decade. It's different for each one of us. We're all on the journey that's appropriate for us. But that's why, to me, when I do sound and people raise their vibrations, and they have the most amazing after death communications directly with their kids themselves, then they know. Then they know. And I have had also readings with mediums that have been so wonderful, but nothing quite has sort of filled my heart like those direct encounters. Yeah, those direct after death communications.
Mm.
And that's why I love doing sound, because it helps, it does that,
It,
it gives that to
it
people.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been to a couple sound healing gatherings myself, and I just love it. It just kind of puts you into this state. It's really interesting. You can just feel it going through the body and helping to release that. And while you were talking, what kind of dropped in was like learning that there is no death is part of one of our lessons,
Yeah.
which was interesting. I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that just
There
dropped
you
in. I
go.
was like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
And you know, there's this amazing poem that St. Augustine wrote, and he wrote it like 1400 years ago. And we're still learning. And it's like, don't be sad for me. I am in the next room. That's what he wrote. And we're still trying to understand that and learn
Hmm.
that. So it's a big, big, big lesson.
Yeah, it's definitely one in my lifetime this time that there's no death, and I kind of want to talk because like my eyes keep going towards that painting there that's by your side there. Can you talk a
Yes.
little bit about that?
Yeah. And that's why I recorded a very short sound session for you. And it wasn't a real sound session actually at all. It was more a guided meditation to put up a four-sided pyramid of light. And I start that recording by talking about this painting. So this painting this is a print. There were 100 prints made of the original. And this was done by Scottish medium Gordon Smith. And he did it actually in 5 minutes, using a technique he'd never used before.
Wow.
And when I saw this print, which was at a conference of Helping Parents Heal, and Gordon was there doing amazing mediumship, and he was incredible. The moment I saw it, I'm like, that's exactly what it feels like when you do sound. That's what it's like. You are immersed in this light, in this incredible light. So that's what that is. And the recording I did for you was about putting up this four-sided pyramid of light, which was a tool that was given to me when I went to a college in England, because I kind of wanted to understand what was going on. I didn't, there was a lot going on. I mean, my grandmother walking in and being with me for all those years, I needed to understand what was happening. And so I went to this college, and as I'm walking down the hall one day, one of the mediums says, you have a pyramid on your hip. I was like, what? So I found out that it was something I was going to use as a tool. And I hadn't started doing sound yet at that point. But that's the recording of the Pyramid of Light. And that print by Gordon Smith captures it perfectly.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, my attention is kept like, look at the picture, look at the picture. So I was like,
Yeah,
okay, so I wanted to ask you about that.
yeah.
Okay, so that brings up something else. The pyramid, when I do intuitive readings, right, for like a medical intuitive, and I'm reading the body, I get pyramids, energy of pyramids come up. Can you talk a bit more about the energy pyramids? Like, what does that represent?
Well, I am no expert, but maybe a medical intuitive like Julie Ryan, she's an amazing medical intuitive. Maybe Julie Ryan could help you. I'll tell you what I know. I know that even if a pyramid is imaginary, it doesn't have to be in the three dimensions, it's powerful. And I know that everything that is thought, said, and done while that pyramid is up is magnified. So we put it up at the beginning of a session and we take it down at the end. And it's important to take it down because if you walk out of that session and go out into the outer world to all the chaos, you don't want to magnify that. I have used this visualization and created this pyramid of light over and over and over through the years. And I do a lot of work with cancer patients because that's close to my heart. And often they will, before going into an MRI machine, you know how noisy those things are, or
Mm-hmm.
doing chemo or radiation or having surgery or whatever, they put up the pyramid of light around them. And it offers a lot of comfort and helps a lot. Even I've been told people put it up before they go in the MRI machine and they don't even hear the MRI machine. That's crazy, but I have not experienced that myself. Yeah.
Okay. Um, then the other thing you said you went to a college in UK.
Yeah, I went to the Arthur Findlay College of Psychic Studies. I didn't know that it was like the foremost school of mediumship. I had no idea. I was just guided to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got when I went on my journey of becoming a healing practitioner and into the medical intuitive field and Reiki. Um, it was really interesting. And I was in this sleep wake state myself, and Jesus came in, the energy of Jesus. And generally, the energy of Jesus will come in. And I'm not really religious or anything like that, but he's made appearances in my life throughout the healing journey. And he comes in and he's like, wake up. And he goes out and he like introduces Arthur Findlay himself. Arthur Findlay comes in because I was questioning if
Cool.
I really should go there. And I had from spirit Arthur Findlay come in and have an actual personal invite to go there. And so I was like, okay,
Beautiful.
I'm going.
Oh, and did you
So
go?
yeah, yeah,
I
I
had an
went for
experience there too. I had, oh,
trans
so you
healing.
did go.
Yeah, I went for like 2 weeks for trance healing course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I love trance. I love trance so much. I love getting out of the way and just letting spirit come in.
yeah.
But I had a, you talk about signs. I just thought of this Arthur Finley sign. When I had to empty Chloe's room at the hospital, that was a rough moment. And I came back in to make sure everything was gone. And there was one thing in the room, and it was this huge paperclip. And she said, Mom, look for the paperclips. So I'm at Arthur Finley, and there are these beautiful rooms, and some of them have nothing in them, just like lovely wallpaper and a fireplace and beautiful rugs. So I get this nudge, Mom, go in this room. So I open the door and I go in this room, and there's no furniture in this room, but there's this magnificent navy blue rug, and smack in the middle of it is a huge paperclip. That
Wow.
was fun. But being at Arthur Findlay really raises your psychic abilities. I mean, my psychic abilities went through the roof when I was there, but then I came home and I didn't practice. So most of it just, diminished away. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so magical there. It reminds me of Harry Potter,
Yeah.
and I want to go back at some point, but it was definitely a beautiful journey, experience being
Nice.
there and just
Nice.
doing all the activities and like,
And you're immersed. You
yeah,
are
it was
in
like being
it.
at home actually. It was
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah, because you live, you eat, you work, everything in the same place. It's fantastic. Yeah.
hmm Yeah,
Yeah.
so very cool.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
and like you said, it's all the signs. It's following intuition, the guidance, trusting, getting out of the way. So that's all part of it, and being guided. So yeah.
So you had
Anything
a
else?
personal invitation from Arthur Finley. Wow, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, because I was doubting. And I was like, I need a sign. And they were like, and I kept questioning. And I was like, so I guess they were really wanting to put it in my face. So I was like, yes, go. And the funny thing too, after like before then, another thing that happened was I was at the park and I was just meditating. I was walking around, I was sitting on the bench and just trying to contemplate, is this the right direction? Should I really go? Because I had to fly. It was a long flight, and then it was taking time off of work. And then I mean, it wasn't
Yep.
just going down the road, right? It,
No,
it was a whole
you had to
thing.
make an effort. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. And then, financial, and it
Yeah.
was just the whole thing. And so I was sitting in my car after walking around in nature. And it was funny. I was on my way home, and whoever it was, I felt it was a male energy, got into my car with me, spirit, and started singing London Bridges. And I was like, okay. So I had a lot of things that led up to
Yeah.
that. And then finally, Arthur Finley came in. So it was a progression, kind of like what we've been talking about. It's
Yeah.
just following, everything and
Plus
ask, ask
you
spirit.
but you were invested because it wasn't easy. You had to take time off work. You had to pay, you had to fly far. You had to pay a lot of money. I mean, and that's the key. The key is the more invested you are, the more you will go with it, the more it will matter to you, the more you will follow through.
Hmm
So you see the wisdom in that.
Yeah.
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 Like
It's all beautiful.
I was invested in Grandma Emily's granola, like 200%, because I had to support 3 kids. And I mean, that was it. Night and day. Yeah. And so now I want to help other people do that. Yeah. Work with their team, grow their
Mm-hmm.
business. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. All right. Any last topics that you would like to cover?
I think, it's been a lovely talk, and I just no, I think we've covered a lot,
Okay.
and yeah, if
Yeah,
anybody
where
wants
can
to
people?
join me, they can always join me for sound. Sound is always free. You can go on my website, andreacourey.com, and on the calendar page it says all the upcoming Zooms. Just join, no RSVP. Just come and enjoy the benefits. And yeah, it's fun. It's really cool.
Beautiful. Thank you. And stick around at the end of this conversation because Andrea gave us a little bit of a taste of the sound healing that she does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right,
It's
thank
it's
you.
a it's about the pyramid and the fact that we are beings of light. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your journey. It was lovely. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. Andrea here. I have a lovely print here beside me that was done by medium Gordon Smith, and it really depicts so well what it feels like to be in a magnificent four-sided pyramid of light. It's something we put up at the beginning of our meditations. We take it down at the end. And it's also a tool you can use anytime when you wish to feel safe and well protected. Just to bring in the light to remind you that you are a being of light. So we're going to put it up now. We start by visualizing that we are seated on a square platform, a nice sturdy square platform. And all around us are four beautiful triangles of light. One in the front, one in back, one to the right and one to the left. Now you look to the right and you pick up that first crystal triangle and this lovely red light comes in around you. Then you look to the left and the second triangle is on the ground. You pick it up and they meet above your head and fit perfectly together. And this side emits a lovely soft purple light. The third side of this four-sided pyramid of light is behind you. You don't see it, but you know it's there, and you bring it up now, and it joins the other two. And this one emits a beautiful, gentle blue light. Fourth side in front of you needs no invitation. Up it comes, bringing with it the strength of the gold light. So you have the red of the root, and you have the purple of crown, and they create a flow and just help all your main energy centers of the body align. And the soft light blue behind you, well, that brings in the nurturing female principle. The gold in front is the action and the male principle. And so we sit in this magnificent four-sided pyramid of light of our own creation, and it fills with light. And we are one with this light. We breathe it in now to all the cells of the physical body. Breathe it out. Open the cells. In comes the light. And we open the mind, imagining opening the mental body and bringing the light into the mental body. Breathe in the light and breathe it out. And one more time. Now we go to the heart space, the emotional body. Open the heart. And breathe in the light. And breathe it out. And we just enjoy being in the light, being the light. One with the light. And when you're ready to take pyramid down, you start with the gold, down comes the gold, and then down comes the blue behind you, then the purple on your left and the red on your right. And I hope that you will become familiar with this tool and use it. And just visualize what Gordon so beautifully captured of ourselves as one with the light.